So this is the skill called condensing. We're going to start with that. All right, did you know that this 2 needed to move? And you knew that it needed to go up there, but did you know what to do with the 2 and the 3? Well, if I put it to the power of 2, would that help you decide what to do with it? You're supposed to make it x to the 6th. Raise your hand if you knew it was x to the 6th. Okay, good. Then it's log base 3 of x to the 6th, and there's a plus here, which means times, and then this 4 goes up as a power on the y to the 4th. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. If you didn't, one of the things that I want to tell you is that today I'm going to be doing a review video in all 3 hours. All the problems will be different. That's special. Not many teachers do that because I make different problems for each hour. So the benefit is, let's say that you kind of got some of the things I taught you today, but some were like, ooh, I wish I could do that again. Well, go watch the video from a different hour and the problems will be different. All right, next, let's try a different kind. Let's try the opposite of that. What if we had to expand it? Log base 3 of 5x to the 7th over 2x squared. Expand that into multiple logs. And the directions on these are always not just expand. I taught you this on that day. I reminded you it was expand and simplify. Seems kind of counterintuitive. Expand and simplify. Meaning, if you ever get something that can simplify a log down to just a number like 2, if you can ever simplify it, you should. All right, on this one, I want you to do it and then compare with the kid next to you. There's at least 4 logs here if you did it right. There's at least 4 logs here. You might be thinking, well, I get that there's a minus, so they know that there's 1 log minus the other log. Yeah, and then you got to expand the top, and then you got to expand the bottom. It can be expanded to at least 4 logs. All right, I'll pause for a second. I'll give it a try and compare with the kid next to you. Log base 3 of 5 plus. Ooh, you put the 7 in front. That's smart. Log base 3 of x. Good. Now handle the bottom. The minus makes a minus. Or sorry, the divide makes a minus. But tell me exactly what to do next. Parentheses is correct. Log base. They all have the same base. Of. And then what? Sorry. If you put a parentheses, then you want a plus here. And you will distribute it at the end. Yeah, keep going. Log base 3 of x. That is it. Now, I accept it this way, or even better, distribute that negative to both of them. There it is. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Not that many people. We should try another one like that. You ready? Log base 4 of 5x to the 1/2 over 6y to the 3rd. Expand it and simplify it. And you know what? I'm going to change something. Sorry. This 6 on the bottom, change it to a 4. That's going to do something. Okay, I'll pause for a second while you give that a try. Okay, we still have some debates going on about whether it's this way or that way. Let me help you settle it. Log base 4 of 5 plus log base 4 of x to the 1/2. What are you about to say? Yes?
It needs to be 1/2 log base 4.
Yeah, the 1/2 should be in front, Mr. Server. Good. Okay, now this minus means, this divide means there's a minus. And then there's a log base 4 of 4. What are you about to say? Oh, you didn't notice that? What is log base 4 of 4 equal to? 1. So you can't leave it as log base 404. You have to have a 1 there. And then what else are you about to say about this next thing? What's next? I'm dealing with the y to the third here, and it'd be really easy to forget something right now. I'm going to make another log. Yeah, it's got to be negative. Or I have to have a parentheses around this, and then it can be positive. 3 log base 4 of y. And again, if you wanted to distribute the negative to both, that would be totally fine. Now, again, I didn't even do it yet. What's wrong with the answer as written on the board? Yes?
You need to simplify further. Log base 4 and 4 to be simplified to 1.
That has to be a 1. The number 1. Okay. Any questions about that kind? All right, next. I think we should address the ones we did yesterday briefly. A of t equals a of 0, e to the, you remember the rest of it? Okay, t, good. That's the formula. I told you you wouldn't have to memorize it. We'll give it to you. But what if we gave it to you with numbers in it? What if we said a sub 0 was like 80, and I told you the problem was about antelope? What were you supposed to know about the 80 then? It's antelope, but what? What about 80 antelope? That's what you're going to have someday? Yes? That's a starting amount. Good. And let's say I change the t to 4. Could you figure out with what I have so far what k is equal to? No. I need to know one more thing. So what if I told you at the end, you're going to have twice as many antelope. You know, they're going to breed, you're going to keep them safe, and so they're going to multiply, and then there's going to be 160 antelope. Now, could you solve for k? All right. Good. Now, here's another one that uses that same equation. I'm not going to rewrite it. You're supposed to know from that I just had it on the board a second ago. What if we start with at time 0, and we have 14 sloths, and I would love to raise sloths. They're such fascinating creatures. Do you know what it's called when you have a sloth farm? It is not called a sloth farm. It's a slothinage. All right, so you start your slothinage with 14 sloths, and it turns out that you're really bad at raising them, and so they're slowly dying off. And your sloths have a half-life of 2 years. 2 years later, you only have 7 of them because you really suck at raising sloth. Your sloth farming abilities are weak. Then my question is, when you get to year 6, how many sloths do you have left? All right, I did say I'd give you the equation. I'll rewrite it. A of t equals a sub 0 e to the k t. Now, hint, you're going to want to start by solving for k. You can't do anything till you get k. Okay, so would you go ahead and solve for k and then ask the kid next to you if they got the same thing as you did for k. Then see if you can go on and finish it. We won't have a calculator, so you may leave your answer with logs in it or with exponentials in it or whatever you need to leave it in, because you won't have a calculator. You'll definitely need to solve for a of t at year 6. Pausing for a second. All right, here we go. The amount at the end was, well, since there's a half-life of 2 years, you can go off to the side and say time 2 sloth 7. Now I actually have something to put here. And I can say I'll have 7 sloths after starting with 14, e to the k, and the time was 2. Divide both sides by 14, and you'll always get 1/2 if you're doing a half-life question. 1/2 equals e to the 2k. Log base e of 1/2 equals 2k. You get the 2 out of there by multiplying by sides by 1/2. There, 1/2 log base e of 1/2. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Awesome. Then you go on to rewrite the equation out again with a of t. And we don't know this, right? So we leave it as a variable. Equals the starting amount is always the starting amount. There's only one starting amount, and that was 14. Don't get confused by that. This is the original starting amount. And then it's e to the k. Ooh, that's this. Times t, but I'm going to put the time in front. And the time was 6 times, and then you'll see it better that you can times it by that 1/2. And 1/2 of 6 is 3. And then that 3 can go up here. And then since this is an e, all of that simplifies. 14, and then this e and this e tell me that the answer is just this with the power on it. So that's 14 times 1/2 to the 3rd. Raise your hand if you figured that far out. All right, if you didn't, look at it close. Try to figure out where I got these different things. That turned into 3. The 3 ends up going up here. All right, and then 1/2 to the 3rd is really 1/8. And so it's really 14/8, which is really, cut it in half, 7/4. Boom, final answer, 7/4. Anybody get to 7/4? All right, if you didn't, maybe this is one where you should go watch one of the problems I do in a different hour. Go watch 3rd hour's video. Okay. Next. I haven't graphed in a while. I know this may seem really dumb, but we just graph y equals 2x. You'll see why in a second. Well, if you didn't already, I hope you thought, oh, I could just make an XY chart. Because you might have known what 2x looks like, look kind of like that, but you won't probably know if I say what's 2 log base 3 of x, unless you use an XY chart. Remember, this is the argument right here. So you're going to be dropping numbers in there. Would it be smart to like use a 7? No. 7 wouldn't work very well, so I'm not going to choose 7. What would be smart things to pick? Yes?
3.
3 is a smart thing to pick. And when you put in a 3 right there, you get 2 log base 3 of 3. Well, the log base 3 of 3, this part, is just 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So 3 comma 2 should be on your graph. Finish the graph, including where the asymptote is. Hopefully you remember where the asymptote is. It's whatever makes the inside 0. I'll pause for a second. 0, when put in here, when 0 goes in there, you have found the asymptote. So since this one didn't get shifted left or right, you know, there's nothing in with the x, right? So then the asymptote's still there at 0. Okay, next number I'm going to stick in is 9. Because when I put in a 9 here, log base 3 of 9 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 9 comma 4. And overall, you should know that the parent graph of a log looks kind of like that. And now we're just finding more specific points. Raise your hand if you generally got that. Okay, now we're going to move on to finding another blast from the past. If I start with a log, can you make it into an inverse? You may recall this is one of the skills that we've tested you on multiple tests, is inverses, because they're a big deal. So if you can make the inverse of this, can you also tell me its domain and its range? the domain and range of the original. If I were you, I'd be thinking of what the picture looks like. If you know what the picture looks like, you know the domain and range. So find its domain and range and then find its inverse. Pausing. Okay, so domain. If I wanted to do domain and range, I'd make a picture. And I just showed you a second ago what a log looks like. They generally look like this. And what's the domain then? Say it if you know it. Nobody knows the domain of that? 0 to infinity, good. And is it 0 itself? No, so parentheses on the 0. That's the domain. How about the range of it? Yep. Negative infinity to infinity. All right. So without even looking at its inverse, I know the domain and range of the inverse then. Do you remember this? For inverses, x and y flip. So if the domain was this, it becomes the what? It becomes the range of the inverse. So the range of the inverse would be 0 to infinity. And the range becomes the domain. All right. So how about the inverse itself? Well, that's where you make this x and you make this y, and then you'd have to solve it. How do you solve it? You solve for y. So, big surprise, you got to know how to rewrite logs. So this log becomes 2 to the x equals y. That is the inverse of that. That make sense? All right. Next. Let me think. I noticed a lot of kids struggle when we got to this part, so I'm going to give you another one of these. Let's say you had log. Let me think. I'm not even going to say. No, I'm going to say it's log base e. There we go. And then this next part, I'm going to say of log without a base. Hopefully you know what base that is then. Of m to the power of 3 log base m of 10. And now, this is the argument. I'm hoping you notice that these m's aren't just randomly there. That was very purposefully designed. Those m's are one of those scenarios where you got the same base. So you can simplify that part where I just put the arrows to. You can simplify it a lot. And then you can simplify it more. And in the final answer, your answer is like ln 5. It's not the right answer, but try to figure out what the right answer is. Yes?
You're missing a parenthesis.
You're correct. Okay, simplify this down. Okay, I want to give you just a little help just to make sure. In this little area is where I would start, and which number would you move first? Say it if you know it. What moves? The 3. Good. Anytime you have a number out in front like this, be thinking about, could I move that up to the power? Oh, yes, I could. And that would help you, because now there's a 3 there, but there's nothing there. And then you go, oh, the fact that their spaces are the same, the answer to that whole pink thing is 10 to the 3rd. Do you get how the whole pink thing can simplify to just 10 to the 3rd? Now I'm going to rewrite it. Log base e of log without a base. So you put the base. What's the base?
10.
10. of 10 to the third. And if you put the base there, I bet you noticed then that this whole part is just 3. So the final answer is ln 3. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Sweet. Okay. Let's see. Log base 3 of x plus 5 minus log base 3 of x equal to 6. Solve. I'll pause for a second. You solve that. Remember my rules. If you can factor it, you should. Well, I can't factor this. If there's fractions, clear them. There isn't any fractions. Rewrite it? Can't rewrite it. There's too many logs running around. If you can condense it, you should. One of those will usually save the day. Okay, you should have condensed it to log base 3 of x plus 5 over x is equal to 6. Next, if you can factor it, you should. Can't factor anything. Can I clear any fractions? You can't really multiply by x on both sides. This is in the argument. You can't just multiply by x on both sides. That would not work. So then you got to think, rewrite. 3 to the 6th equals x plus 5 over x. Can't factor, you should. Can't factor anything. What else? What of those rules would work? Yes.
You can solve the left side or
Clear the fractions by
multiplying by x.
multiplying by x. And yes, 3 to the 6th is a thing. It's a really big number, but I'm just going to leave it as 3 to the 6th. So x times 3 to the 6th is equal to x plus 5. And now this is a really big number, but I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So I would have let you say it's 3 to the 6th x minus x is equal to 5. Now, if we just weren't hampered by that, if that was just like 125 or something like that, then you could solve from here and it'd be easy. What is 3 to the 6th? Somebody figured out? Yep.
729.
729x minus an x is equal to 5. You'd be amazed at how many kids think the x disappears here. No. 729 minus 1. So it'd be 728x is equal to 5. And then you just divide both sides by 728. All right. So I have covered a lot of things. I want to tell you the review in hour 1 was totally different than this. And the review in hour 3 will be totally different than this. And I'm recording all of them and posting them. So if you want more review, there's also review problems in the Schoology folder with key. You have plenty you could do to review tonight, and I hope you do. Have a great day. Test is tomorrow.